This week on Face the State, the rail safety scramble. Lawmakers in the nation's capital and here in our state meet to talk about how to move forward.
This is going to be a marathon, so we got to slow down, we got to process the data, we have to do a lot more testing, and we're having all kinds of hiccups and bumps.
My one-on-one with the man who represents the small town at the State House, his message for the railroad and the nation.
Anything you want to say to the people of Ohio?
Yeah, I remain committed to the people of Ohio. I've always been committed to the people of Ohio.
It's a historic Ohio case. Two once political heavy hitters found guilty. Now the questions, what's next for Ohio politics? And can we expect an appeal? And we are going to show you a new investment in the success of Black-owned businesses in Columbus. Face the State starts now. Good morning, and thank you for joining us here on Face the State. I'm Tracy Townsend. We start this morning with the growing pressure on the Norfolk Southern Railroad. Federal regulators are opening a special investigation into the company's safety practices after a series of train derailments, including those in East Palestine, Springfield, Ohio, and then Thursday, Alabama. Ohio state legislators are also working to hold the railroad accountable. This week, the railroad announced plans to develop a safety training center in Ohio and conduct additional research into enhancing its defect detectors along the tracks. The railroad's CEO testified before Congress on Thursday, facing pressure about the environmental impact and public outcry from the people who live in the communities where the trains have derailed. Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw told senators his company is sorry for last month's toxic train derailment in East Palestine. He pledged more than $20 million to the region and residents.
We're going to be there for as long as it takes to help East Palestine thrive and recover.
Norfolk Southern has announced several voluntary safety upgrades. The CEO was pressured about how safe East Palestine is for the people who live there.
Senator, the EPA and the Ohio EPA have very high standards, and I trust their testing.
And would you live there, given what you've seen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I believe that the air is safe. I believe that the water is safe. There are hundreds of tests.
Okay.
There are millions of data points.
Okay.
They all point to the same thing. And I genuinely enjoy my conversations with the folks at East Palestine.
Earlier this month, a bipartisan group of senators unveiled a new rail safety bill.
Will you commit to supporting the Bipartisan Railway Safety Act and help restore the public's trust in your company?
Yes, Senator, there are a number of provisions that we would absolutely support.
Those include tighter standards for tank cars the railroads don't own, expanded hazardous materials training for first responders, and standards for detectors used to spot problems along the track. Republican senators also criticized the responsiveness of the EPA. The agency recently paused the removal of toxic soil in order to confirm facilities that process the soil are federally compliant.
We expect waste to be moving perhaps as soon as today to other facilities.
Several East Palestine residents attended the hearing, including homeowner Aaron Stauffer.
Our property values are nothing right now. You know, even if we didn't feel safe and wanted to leave the area, I don't even know how we would do it.
Back in East Palestine, Eric Whiting says he doesn't trust testing that shows no harmful levels of toxins. He's still only drinking bottled water.
So in the ideal world, you'd want Norfolk Southern to buy you out?
I would love to be bought out, and I would love to walk away.
So far, he has not received an offer. And in addition to the hearings in Washington, D.C. over the past week, lawmakers at the Ohio State House held hearings on this, too. The Select Committee on Railroad Safety is holding weekly hearings following the derailments. This week, they questioned the directors of the Health Department and Transportation Department, specifically about the resources available to the people who live in the East Palestine community.
Of course, part of it is doing what we need to hold Norfolk Southern accountable for the costs of this. And from the Department of Health's point of view, we're looking at one sliver of that, but a lot of that cost for us relates to the cost of not only this clinic as it is now, but as we want to transition it into an ongoing resource for continuity care in that community. We really don't envision that clinic going away. We would like for it to be something that becomes a medical home for some, but a continuing resource for all as it relates to this.
I talked with State Senator Michael Rulli, the vice chair of the Senate Select Committee and the lawmaker who represents State Senate District 33, which is home to East Palestine.
Well, I would say the number one thing that's affected is the anxiety that the people that actually live there. We have about 2,100 homes and about 5,000 in the immediate area, about 2 miles outside of Ground Zero. And then you have Nagley and you have Crestview. So now you're up to about 7,000 or 8,000. So the anxiety level's through the roof. There's a lot of mixed messages that are going on. That's why you see I'm always requesting more scientists to go there. We were lucky enough to have Texas A&M and Carnegie come, so we need more of that.
What are you hearing that you can take home to your constituents?
Well, I think if I had to say a message to the constituents about how we move forward is this is going to be a marathon. So we got to slow down, we got to process the data, we have to do a lot more testing, and we're having all kinds of hiccups and bumps in the road as far as not having the manpower to test the wells and the water and the septic like we should. Just had a beautiful meeting with Ann, the director of the Ohio EPA. She's going to bring resources in from surrounding counties that are going to come and help us test at a quicker pace. And I think when all that starts to fall in line, you're going to see the anxiety calm down a little bit.
What are your thoughts on the work that Vance and Brown are doing, this bipartisan committee that they're trying to, this legislation?
I love it. I mean, politics get ugly and, we all live in this world and it's something that's not fun, but I think America is so great. When you see these disasters, you look at 9/11, we unite, and you look at this derailment, there's no R's or D's. When I'm in that town and there's a lot of, D's and R's in that town, I don't care what you are. We just want to make you right. And the closer you get to Ground Zero, the bigger the problem is.
Do you feel like there are actual concrete steps being made to restore the confidence that people have there? I mean, I saw people saying they weren't sure they were going to be able to go back. Do you feel like that's something that could happen?
I think when you look at this earth, and if we roll our sleeves up and get working hard, I think we can get it back to where it needs to be.
Our entire interview will be on the 10 TV app. 10 Investigates was on the ground in East Palestine, speaking with people who live near the crash, as well as the government official promising help. Chief Investigator Bennett Haberly is joining us this morning on Face the State. We really appreciate you being here and your insight.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's go to East Palestine and what Senator Rulli refers to as Ground Zero, because people there, they want answers and they want that help to stay there, as they keep saying, long after the cameras are gone.
It's so true. There are two things I think that are emerging out of East Palestine still, even a month after this has happened. You have a large sense of frustration from the people who live there, and then you still have this mistrust, the fact that despite what the EPA has said, that the tests for air monitoring, for soil monitoring, that the municipal water is safe to drink. Despite all of that, you still have this feeling, this unspoken feeling among the people who live there who say, I'm still going to drink bottled water. I still don't feel comfortable drinking or using municipal water. And they still have these long-term health concerns. And while, they've complained initially about things like headaches and sore throats and rashes, and the mayor even said he wants to get to the bottom of what's causing that. Despite all these tests that have come through, and we just heard from the state lawmaker there who referenced the fact that Carnegie Mellon and Texas A&M had come in and done independent testing, and they found that what their readings were very closely mirrored what the EPA found, which was that there weren't levels that were beyond normal, with the exception of acrolein, which can be problematic.
And then we also heard from the CEO of Norfolk Southern in Washington, D.C., and many people questioning what they perceive perhaps as a lack of commitment to East Palestine.
Right. I mean, the words he used several times during his testimony this week were I'm committed to do the right thing. And lawmakers continue to press him on what exactly that means. Are you going to commit to pay for the long-term health care costs? Are you going to pay for the loss of the devaluation of their properties? He would not commit to those specific things, just saying, I'm going to commit to do the right thing. And that was something I spoke with a woman who we had interviewed a couple of weeks ago in East Palestine, and she said she and her husband feel stuck. They know that their property has lost value. They don't have the ability, they feel like, to take out a second mortgage. And so now they're just left with these questions on what are the long-term health impacts going to be, and two, will the rail company step up and actually pay these people, make them whole again?
One of the things Senator Rulli talked about with me was how bipartisan this effort is. And I wanted to close out our chat here about talking about that, but also the balance of power. What can state lawmakers really do in the face of the fact that the railroads, that's federal monitoring?
Yes, and to borrow a pun here, there are seriously two tracks going on. There's the effort in the State House to effect change. And you've got some opposition that's going on right now, especially from the Ohio Rail Association, who has come out and said this isn't the proper venue. Any change is likely going to happen on the federal level. And so that's where you see the efforts by Senators J.D. Vance and Senator Brown to put forth these rail safety enhancements. And, they've got 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats. It appears to be a bipartisan bill. There are some portions of it that the CEO, Alan Shaw, said that he would go along with. However, he would not commit to other things that are in the bill.
I do think, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, if you live near a train track, drive near one, you're going to be looking at the trains a little differently after all of this.
Right. It's not something that happened overnight. We've seen this over and over again, where derailments have caused problems in towns all over our country.
Yep. All right, 10 Investigates Chief Bennett Haberly joining us on Face the State. Thank you. Great to have you here. Now, we can expect several updates this week from the crash site, the Ohio State House, and even Washington, D.C. There will be additional hearings in both capitals. All right, the other big headline this morning, the state's largest corruption case ever. After 7 weeks of trial, a dozen jurors convicted former State House Speaker Larry Householder and ex-Ohio Republican Party Chair Matt Borges in a $60 million bribery scheme. Prosecutors say Householder orchestrated a scheme with money paid by First Energy through dark money groups. The funding helped to elect him Speaker. He then passed a $1 billion bailout bill, the vast majority of which benefited First Energy. Jurors found Householder made more than $500,000 from that deal. Here's the former Speaker moments after that verdict came in.
Yeah, I remain committed to the people of Ohio. I've always been committed to the people of Ohio, and I think that the justice system is what it is, and there's a process. This is one step to the process, and we're going to utilize every process we can in the judicial system until we get it right.
Householder and Borges face up to 20 years in prison. Both men plan to appeal. Before that verdict was announced, I spoke with David DeVillers, the former U.S. attorney who oversaw the indictment.
I tried. They were out for 6 days. Okay, so it's their instructions. And this was the case I tried was a lot longer. It had some substantive counts as well. But, they went through every count, every overt act. And I think there's 50 something or 80 something overt acts in this case. So they're going to go through all of those and decide if there are at least 2 that these individuals were guilty of committing. So it could be in an hour, it could be in a week.
The dark money. There's something there for, I think, the public probably to have a better understanding of. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. And in fact, a lot of people don't understand kind of these 501c4s, dark money groups. And the bottom line is it's an unlimited amount of money that goes to these 501c4s with no requirement to name the donors. So they could be huge corporations. They could be large scale billionaires, unlike super PACs that are regulated by the FEC, where they have to name the donors. So what's going to the super PAC, and for 501c4s, you don't. The law says that its main purpose can't be political, but that's not how they're being. No one's enforcing it. The IRS is not enforcing 501c4s. So a lot of times the main purpose is political. But even if they follow the regulations, if they spend 49% attacking or supporting a particular candidate, that's fine as far as how the law is written. And then 51% could be, supporting an issue. And there's kind of a blurry line there. So these are kind of the new super PACs with special sauce. The special sauce being they don't have to name their donors. So why wouldn't you use this? And there's, again, like tomorrow we could end 501c4s if Congress wanted to do it. But there's no political will to do it because both Republicans and Democrats have 501c4s. And by the way, you're not supposed to control a 501c4. It's not supposed to inure to the benefit of an individual, particularly a politician. But they do, and everyone does. Everyone knows there's a 501c4 that's going to support a particular politician, and all the energy companies and lobbyists know who to donate, which 501c4 to donate to if they want to gain the favor of that particular politician.
And then that hits those of us on Main Street because it may be something. I mean, this was energy, but I mean, it could be where your kids go to school or any kind of thing.
Anytime you see a billboard that's attacking or supporting a politician and it says some sort of 501c4 with always have the most bizarre names, right? Like, Ohio Citizens for Goodness, anything like that, just be suspicious of that and ask, hey, who put up that billboard and where did the money come from to do that? Any radio ads, television ads, just be suspicious when you see those.
Both men could face up to 20 years in prison. And again, they do plan to appeal the conviction. Count on 10 TV to stay on this case and to give you any updates. Well, it's all aboard for Amtrak, or so it seems. The renewed push to expand passenger rail through Columbus, and what's at stake for the governor.
This is a tremendous legacy for him, both personally and professionally.
Where the proposal is this morning and what could stand in the way. And the battle for abortion rights, the group hitting the streets soon, and what they say they want to see happen in Ohio. Amtrak's train horns could be blasting through central Ohio again for the first time in more than 40 years. This month, the Ohio House passed a transportation budget, which will include paying for the new line. Amtrak wants to connect Cincinnati to Cleveland by way of Dayton and Columbus. There would be 3 daily round trips. A second line could connect Cleveland to Detroit. But there's been talk about new trains for years. Could it actually happen this time? Here's Stu Richardson with All Aboard Ohio, the primary group pushing for Amtrak expansion.
I think more so than back when we actually won funding. Because even then it was a case of, well, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. But I think the game changer, both nationally and for Ohio, was the fact that the federal government put just an incredible amount of money on the table for passenger rail.
Until recently, Ohio lawmakers have not really shown much interest in expanding passenger rail, most notably in 2011. Then Governor John Kasich was among a few Republican governors who turned down federal funding that had been previously agreed to by their Democratic predecessors. Governor Mike DeWine could have a lot to gain if the expansion passes.
Governor DeWine, when he was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives and later as a U.S. Senator, was pretty consistently supportive of Amtrak as a transportation entity. Always voted in favor of their budgets. Always helped beat back some of the attempts to zero out that budget. And so we had at least a degree of confidence that even though he had been hesitating for a while, that he eventually was going to to get on board and really push for this. I mean, if all of this comes to reality, this is a tremendous legacy for him, both personally and professionally. To be the governor that brought passenger rail back in a big way to Ohio that's quite a feather in anybody's cap.
Governor DeWine has asked for the Rail Development Commission to apply for federal grants, saying last month it was the first step in the process and that there are many questions that need answers before the state makes any commitments. The state Senate will now consider the transportation funding bill. It's estimated that the economic impact for that single line would be $130 million annually and more than $2.5 billion from the one-time investment in building the line. This week, a board will review a proposal to put the right to abortion in Ohio's Constitution. The Ohio Attorney General's office approved language in an abortion protection petition. It's part of an amendment that could be on the November ballot. Attorney General Dave Yost determined the summary submitted by a pair of abortion rights groups is fair and in accordance with Ohio law. The ballot board will review it tomorrow. It has 10 days to decide whether the proposal is valid, and then organizers can start collecting signatures to get it on the ballot. We'll be following this and let you know what happens. And this week will mark 3 years since our world changed. The COVID shutdown started this time in 2020. The impact of COVID-19 on our state is far-reaching. Nearly 3.4 million cases, and even lately, Ohio continues to report close to 10,000 new cases each week. 41,000 Ohioans dead, the same as the entire population of Grove City or Delaware, and more than 100,000 other people forced to stay in the hospital. But the fight against COVID-19 has changed. Yes, still out there. The virus may not be part of our everyday lives, and that's thanks to the vaccines and how the virus has changed itself. Columbus Public Health Commissioner Dr. Mashika Roberts says that we are starting to normalize some practices in public health that public health advocates have been talking about for years.
Wash your hands, use hand sanitizer, stay home when you're sick, and really questioning those symptoms. Is this something infectious? And now that we can do at-home testing, it's so convenient, and I'm hoping that maybe we can expand some of that at-home testing to other infectious diseases like the flu.
You will certainly hear more of my interview with Dr. Roberts this week on 10 TV and on Wake Up CBUS. We are going to explore the ways that COVID altered how we live our lives every day here in Ohio, whether for better or for worse. We'll also look at the impact of the pandemic on really just about everything. So we do hope you'll join us next week for a special edition of Face the State, one day before the 3-year anniversary of the shutdown here in Ohio. Still ahead this morning on Face the State, how Central Ohio businesses are getting a little help for their big ideas. Welcome back. Fifth Third Bank is making an investment in the success of Black-owned businesses in Columbus. Fifth Third awarded 2 Near East Side businesses each a $5,300 grant. The money comes through an initiative called the Empowering Black Futures Capital Readiness Program. This year's recipients are Arthur Norman Jr., owner of Dipped Custom Prints, and Antoinette Parks of Chef Butcher's Creole Kitchen, a business her father started in the Bronzeville-King-Lincoln district nearly 17 years ago.
I am honored to be a recipient of this program. It's a great opportunity for us, marketing-wise, educational-wise, because you can never stop learning. So it's just another opportunity for me to expand on my knowledge running a restaurant.
It gives us power to be able to contribute to renovating our building, gives us power to buy new tools. It gives us power to be able to save.
The business owners will also receive guidance from small business coaches to strengthen key areas that will really help them prepare for additional growth capital. Well, it has certainly been a week. We look forward to the next week, and thank you for joining us here today on Face the State.